James, what have you seen from Rasheed Walker as the spring's kind of unfolded? Has he taken any steps forward for you?
Yeah, he's bigger, he's stronger, he's more confident, with our scheme, techniques and fundamentals. I think I told you guys before, I think we're very talented at defensive end, so I think that's a benefit. Iron sharpens iron. But he's just more confident. He's 315 pounds now, so he's confident enough with his pass sets that he can take on a bull rush, and he's got some girth to him that he can handle those things. But I see him progressing. I think this off season, from the end of spring to the start of camp, is going to be really important. I think he'll go into summer camp, August camp, with a lot more confidence based on the little experience he got last year, and then obviously this spring. So we have a lot of confidence in him, but he's going to need to take a step between now and the first game.
You mentioned having talented defensive ends. We'll be talking to Gross Matos later. He obviously had a heck of a season last year. How much better can he get, and how much improvement have you seen just since the Citrus Bowl?
Yeah, I think last year, obviously, he did some really good things, but he's still, somewhat, a young and inexperienced player. So all that experience he gained last year, he's going to come into this season with just so much more confidence in what he can do. He's gotten stronger, he's gotten bigger. He's about 265 pounds now and still can run and change direction and bend. He's just one of those guys that, when you would kind of have a list of all the characteristics you're looking for at the defensive end, he's got most of those boxes checked. And usually, you'll have a guy that has, 7 of the 10, but they're not big enough yet, or they just don't have a whole lot of length to them. Or they're missing something, experience, whatever. But now at this point in year 2 of having a significant role for us, he's got most of the boxes checked. I think he's going to come into the season with a lot of confidence.
James, what is this upcoming weekend like for you guys from a recruiting standpoint? The second year of official visits in the spring, what have you kind of learned, and how are you treating things differently this spring than maybe in previous year, last year, I guess?
Yeah, we had a lot of discussions last year about this, and we had a lot of discussions this year, before this, about how we were going to approach that. We decided to stay away from official visits, for this weekend. For a couple reasons. Number one, because it is a very, very long time between now and signing day. It really is. I think the other thing we have found, and we've seen it, you guys have seen it, guys will travel here unofficially. So sometimes guys say, well, I'm going to make a decision early. You bring them on an official visit, and then they're not making the decision. They change their mind and hold the process off. So we just felt like we'd encourage to get as many guys here unofficially, and then save our official visits for later in the process, closer to the decision-making time, closer to signing day. And then the other thing is, to be honest with you, it takes away from our players. We do a big picnic, which is a really good deal after the game, and when you're trying to balance time with the recruits on official visits and our own players and parents, you can't do it. And I don't get enough time with our players. I don't get enough time with our players' parents. So we just felt like we needed to make a decision there, and that was the route we went. But this weekend obviously is a huge weekend. I found out around here, obviously Blue-White Weekend is a huge weekend for Penn State football. It's a bigger weekend for the campus. There's so many things built around it, other sporting events, other university events, fundraising activities, all types of stuff. It's important for our communities, the restaurants, the bars, the hotels, all of it. So we're just a small part in it. But obviously, I think last year we had a really good crowd. The year before that we had a really good crowd. So I'm excited to see. The weather's supposed to be excellent. For us, it's been great. I went to the baseball game yesterday to watch Mac play with my daughter. That's been huge because our baseball and softball teams have had really tough weather the last 2 springs. So I think it's going to be a great day and a great weekend. And then from what I understand, we got the carnival back, or they're calling it Boardwalk now, which is great because some of you guys have been covering it for a while. That was, I guess, a pretty good deal, a few years back.
James, what do coaches in general like to get out of the spring game? And is there anything specific you want to see or learn from this one?
Yeah, probably not what you want to hear, but really these 13 practices are much more valuable for us. I mean, the spring game is great. You see a lot of people around the country not even doing spring games, they're doing skellies and individual, or they're canceling it. For us, the 13 practices are critical. The spring game, I do think there's still value to go into the stadium and compete in that environment. especially when we get 75,000 people to show up to a game. So I still think there's value in that. But I think for coaches, it's always more about the practices where you can control a little bit more of the situations in the environment.
James, about those 13 practices, where have you seen the most growth? Where are you most pleased with your team so far?
Yeah, I think our habits are better, just in terms of how we do things, staying off the ground. We've done a much better job of that. Defensively, when the ball's on the ground, scooping and scoring, how we approach walkthroughs, all those types of things. We're somewhat young and inexperienced at some spots, but we don't necessarily practice and meet like that. The staff's been together now for a number of years. Even the coaches we brought in are experienced guys. But I'm pleased. I thought we got a lot out of the spring. We got a lot of work to do still between now and our first game. But I've been very pleased with this spring. Offensively, I thought we've done a good job of protecting the ball and being explosive. Defensively, we've had some guys come in and really kind of make their presence known right away. I think the two young corners, Marquise and Keaton. Marquise had 2 interceptions today. Those guys have made plays. So I like where we're at, and then I'm really excited about what we're doing on special teams culturally. I think Coach Lurig hasn't changed a whole lot in terms of scheme. There's been some changes there, but it's more about kind of the mentality of special teams. The buy-in, the approach, the cultural aspects of it, I think it's been really good, fantastic.
James, how would you assess CJ and maybe Penn on that time?
Yeah, obviously CJ going to defense last year, you lost some things fundamentally, but he's so physical, he's so aggressive that he brings something to our offense that we need. And again, I think you go back and watch those early games that he played in. He was very, very physical. We just had some issues that we felt like we needed to move him over to help us in the defensive tackle position. And I think he was able to do that, but that was always more of a short-term answer, not a long-term plan. Miranda is more of a, he's kind of a, although he hasn't got a lot of reps, I would say he's more kind of like a seasoned veteran. O-line is kind of what he's done his whole life, and didn't lose a season. But I think that's a really good battle. I really see us right now playing all three of those guys. I don't think it'll be like last year where we had a starting five and tried to stay with the starting five. The third guard right now is going to play. The third tackle is going to play, I think. So I think you'll see a little bit more of that.
What's the balance for you when you're developing a younger offense between developing to what it's already seems to be good at and maybe developing it towards what you want it to be?
I think in the spring that's what you have to focus on is making sure that you don't spend all your time out here doing the things that you are pretty good at. I think you gotta make sure that you got enough depth in what you're able to do in terms of your playbook and what you have confidence in, that you can go into fall with a lot of different things that you can do and be successful. It's funny as you look around and you watch cut-ups around the country, even the best offenses, sometimes they're not really great at anything, but they're good at a lot of things. And I think that's where you want to get to. And then obviously there's some things that you want to be able to hang your hat on, that you do want to be special at, and that's typically where you have tendencies. But for us, that's what we're trying to do this spring. It's not about beating the defense. It's about getting as much of the stuff in so that now when we come back during fall camp, there's some recall and there's some confidence with what we're doing. And then as we get closer to season, we'll start to refine and say, okay, this is kind of what our identity is going to be on offense, defense, and special teams, and then play to that identity as much as we can.
James, Sean Clifford committed to you guys before his junior year, another for 4 years at this point. What stood out early in the process and identifying him early as that target? And then how has he maybe surpassed your expectations in certain aspects since he's gotten here?
Yeah, I think for us, you're talking about a kid that was, highly successful and recruited in high school, went to a really good high school program and all those types of things. Came to camp, did really well for us in camp. But I think the thing that I've been probably impressed with him is how competitive he is. You see it in the weight room, you see it in winter workouts. He is highly, highly competitive, almost to the point when he first got here that he was hard to coach. you know, because he was so prideful and so competitive in everything that he did. And then I think the other thing is, because of that competitiveness and because of how prideful he is, he went from what I think people would probably list as a pro-style quarterback to, I think, a guy that's a legitimate dual threat guy that can hurt you in many ways, because he's worked so hard at changing his body and getting stronger and getting more explosive. So, you know, I've been pleased with. He's a guy that the game comes pretty natural to in terms of finding the open receiver. His off-the-field habits are really good. You know, I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased with our quarterback room right now. You know, it's funny, you look around the country, and we got some depth challenges in certain positions, and you know, obviously we went through some of the transfer stuff like everybody in the country's worked through this year. But at the quarterback position, you know, we've created a pretty competitive room there that is very supportive of one another, and that's really not, you know, probably common nationally. That's usually the room that people, you know, struggle with. I probably shouldn't say that, you know, but knock on wood.
Hey James, looking at the defensive line over the last 4 years, what has Sean Spencer meant to this team and also to the defense, and what stands out to you the most about the impact he's had?
Yeah, I think all of our coaches have done a really good job, and Sean obviously specifically. We've been together for a long time. I think him and Brent complement each other really well. I think Terry and Tim have helped, you know, with those types of things as well. But you know, obviously our production has been darn good. Last year we led the nation in sacks. I think if you went over a 3-year period, if we didn't lead the nation, we're in the top probably 5 easily over a 3-year period. So we've been consistent there. You know, but he's a team guy. He's been very loyal. He's had opportunities every year to move on, and he's been loyal. He's been loyal to Penn State. He's been loyal to me. And he's a damn good coach who connects with his kids, and he's passionate as heck. He's borderline crazy, but he's got great energy with the players. He's got great energy in recruiting. He studies his position. He's a master, you know, in the craft of the defensive line position, and he's always looking to get better. I know he went to a D-line clinic this year with the Tennessee Titans, where they invited kind of all the defensive line coaches in the country to sit around for a couple days and talk ball. So I think the best coaches, I think the best businessmen, I think the best leaders have a growth mindset, and he's got that. And I think the minute that you think you got this game figured out or your position figured out is when you're in trouble. You better be trying to get better every single day, and Sean has done that.
Thanks, Coach.